Howdy everyone, Polcho here with an Age of Magic video, and in today's video we are going to be doing the Hero Spotlight for Goblinusus the Great. You heard what you heard, I said it, I'm not changing it, that is now his name. So we'll go over his stats like we usually do, we'll look at his abilities and how he interacts in battle, so let's get into it. So Goblinusus comes in with 2 million hit points. I think that's a bit low for a boss. However, the goblins do have a lot of healing, so who knows, it might be fine. Speed 222, armor 23k, magic damage resistance 34k, basic damage 113k, critical hit chance 19%, critical damage 182k. And as you can see, we'll go over his stats here. You guys can pause it wherever you want and have a look at anything. And there you go. So now we'll jump into the arena. We'll look at his abilities, what he can do, and whether or not he's going to change the game. Fingers crossed. Who knows? Let's find out. So looking at Goblinusus's basic attack, Majestic Boink, triggers the boss class mark, deals damage to one target, which increases by 6% per dead rat he has a 12.5% chance per dead rat he has for a random ally to deal a support attack to the same target. So basic attack has the potential to do a lot of damage depending on how efficient the rat stacking is. We're going to go ahead and have a look at the animation against Abaddon. Let's go for it. Okay, so he throws his stuff by the looks of it and does his damage. There was no support attack there. That's alright, but as you can see, there are stacks of rats increasing on other goblins. That might be due to passive or leadership, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So, to be honest, out of the goblins we've seen so far, this is probably one of the more basic attacks. It doesn't have a list of descriptions. I like the increased damage, and the support attack's always nice. It's just extra damage. It's essentially another basic attack from an ally. However, support attacks don't carry all the effects basic attacks do. It would be interesting to see a hero come out that allows support attacks that carry the effects of basic attacks. That could be an interesting theme for a faction. Not giving Playcode any ideas or anything. Yeah? Maybe? Who knows? Okay, we'll move on to his first special and see what that is. Moving on to Goblinusus' first special, we have How Dare You. Has a 15% chance per dead rat he has to use an ability when taking damage if it's ready for use, and the ability will go on cooldown afterwards. All allies are guaranteed to dodge one attack. The special ability timer is reduced by 1 per dead rat received, with a 20% chance per dead rat for the incoming damage from the next 4 attacks to be reduced by 50% for all allies. So this ability does a lot, and personally I think it's very strong. Has a 15% chance per dead rat to cast an ability from being attacked. Now, I have tested this. I don't know if it's just bad luck. I'm going to pass the feedback on to Playcott, but it seems like this is the only ability that can be triggered from this 15% chance per rat. I haven't seen his basic be triggered, and I haven't seen his second special be triggered. It's only ever cast this ability when taking damage. And still, it's pretty powerful. To be able to cast an ability from being attacked, it's giving you a free turn, essentially. If you're casting this without having to use it and it comes around to your turn, you can use that basic attack, you can use your second special. That basic attack could be doing a lot of damage, especially when he is racking up the dead rats. And he can rack up dead rats. It's in his passive, but I'll just mention it now. He gets a dead rat for every goblin's turn. So he will be stacking up a lot of dead rats. Next part, all allies are guaranteed to dodge one attack. That's still pretty huge as well. Free dodge. It's not goblin specific either. Every ally is getting the dodge. If you can trigger this ability from being attacked, it's free dodge. If you get dead rats by the time his turn comes around, you can apply it again, get another round of dodge. It's a lot of dodging. The last part of the ability is the reduced cooldown. The special ability timer is reduced. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, again, he's going to get a lot of dead rats. You could almost cast this ability every turn. With a 6-turn cooldown, getting 4 dead rats per rotation, not including any other dead rats that come through other goblins' abilities, You could almost be casting this ability every turn, or it being cast during the enemy phase. That's pretty big. And then the reduced damage, 50% reduced damage for all allies. Again, not goblin specific. So I know he will work tremendously well in a goblin faction, but I don't know. These abilities, they can be cast. So you could run a cross mixed team, but then we've seen other goblins that do need a full goblin faction to work at their capacity. So very interesting ability. I think it's quite strong. I got nothing else to really say. I will pass the feedback on about the ability being only this one that's being cast. I think it is only meant to be this one. So that's an interesting. That should probably be moved to his passive if it's for all abilities. If not, then keep it in this one. So yeah, I like this ability. So the second special is Revenge. Other allies will counterattack one time and an extra one time per dead rat Goblinusus has against the enemy that makes the next attack on them. I don't think that last part is necessary. We know what counterattack does. With a 25% chance per dead rat, Goblinusus has all other allies deal guaranteed critical damage for one turn. With a 17% chance per dead rat, Goblinusus has every other ally perform a support attack on a random available target. So there's a few things to this ability that you don't yet know because, again, we haven't gone over the passive and the leadership ability. So a little bit of a spoiler alert here. We'll start from the top. Allies gain one counter attack to the enemy. This is big because when you come to use this ability, you're going to have 5 or 6 stacks of dead rats on you. Again, assuming you are using a full goblin faction. And again, we don't know what other goblins can add dead rats. That's a lot of free damage. To be able to counterattack that many times, that's a longer duration than a counterattack buff, assuming that it's a one-turn buff. So that is a huge amount of damage. The second part, with a 25% chance per dead rat to gain the guaranteed critical damage, pretty big, especially when I have no doubt you will have more than 4 dead rats when his turn comes around. The thing about this ability is, though, again, none of this is goblin specific. He can do this for all other allies. Again, he's strongest with goblins, but I don't know. It feels like you could potentially mix and match this character. The dead rats, you would probably need at least two goblins to get the stacks of dead rats pumping up, but there's room to play around with. The last part, which might not seem super powerful, this is where the spoiler alert comes in. With a 17% chance per dead rat, Goblinusus has every other ally perform support attacks on a random available target. Now, the thing with Goblinusus is, I'm pretty sure it's his passive. We'll learn about it in a second. He has the ability to allow characters that support attack to perform another support attack. So they're getting 2 support attacks out. And like in your mind, you're thinking sooner. That is a lot of damage. Imagine the 3 goblins on the screen now with Sooner and a Wukong. The potential of extra support attacks coming out from critical damage. He can guarantee critical damage. You get your critical damage out. Sooner has the chance of doing a support attack. With his passive, she has another chance of doing a support attack. There is potential here. I mean, we've gone over his basic 2 specials. I could see people maybe theory crafting with this hero. So we'll move on to his passive now and go over that. I believe that is the part that talks about the extra support attack. Looking over his passive, Eat Dirt has a 20% chance per dead rat he has to restore 4% of his maximum HP per debuff at the start of his turn. At the start of his turn, cast buff on the same number of random allies as the number of dead rats Goblinusus has, which increases damage output by 7% per each ally with the same buff. So I was wrong about the support attack thing that's in his leadership ability. So again, none of this is really goblin specific. He has the buff thing, restoring health, that's just for him. At the start of his turn, cast buffs on the same number of random allies. So any ally could be getting the 7% damage buff. And that's per ally that has the buff as well. So again, mixing in the Suna Wukong combination. This is just what I've come up with off the top of my head. Suna Wukong with the damage buff, extra support attacks, could potentially be a very lethal team. In saying that, the team then would have no healer, so that would be the downfall. But who knows? Maybe the damage output is great enough that you don't really need a healer. It wouldn't be a tournament team. It could pose some issues in clan wars, and potentially an alright defense team in arena. But yeah, the passive pretty straightforward. Probably the most straightforward ability he has, bar his basic attack. So moving on to the Goblinusus' leadership ability, the Big Boss. It is a huge amount of information in this, so let's get into it. Decreases damage taken by all allies from enemy massive attacks by 14% per goblin in the party. So it works like Seven Knives in the sense that massive attacks means AoE. So a fair bit of damage reduction from that. Instantly, I'm thinking of Tyros. A lot of damage mitigation against attacks like that. Increases the damage from rogues, ranged, and melee damages from the goblin faction in the party by 20% and by half as much for other allies. So again, still not a bad damage increase for other allies outside of the goblin faction. Increases the HP of tanks, mages, and healers from the goblins faction in the party by 15% and by half of this much for other allies. Gets a dead rat which can't be thrown out or removed at the start of every other goblin ally's turn, and every rat received reduces fortitude by 1% until the end of the turn. With a 10% chance per dead rat, Goblinusus has another ally who performed a support attack will perform one more support attack. So that's fine, it's got a 10% chance. That's a pretty powerful part of the ability to perform 2 support attacks. That will do a lot of damage. So starting from the top, decreased damage, awesome. I mean, you're not going to say no to decreased damage. Increases the damage of... Yep, so you've essentially got increased damage for all classes, I'm pretty sure. The only class that isn't getting increased damage is himself, I believe. Tanks, mages, healers. And... rogues, range damages, and melee damages. Yeah, so only himself will not be buffed. Gets a dead rat at the start of every goblin's turn, and then you add on the ability of other goblins potentially adding dead rats as well, with that 10% chance. So he's got about a 50% chance. Oh well, that's a leadership ability. So the percentage of that is constantly changing throughout the battle as his rat stack changes every turn you have. So there's a lot there, but it's all pretty straightforward. I think he's quite strong. I really do. He has the potential to be moved around and put in mixed match teams. Obviously, he's going to be strongest with other goblins. He does a lot for the goblin faction. Increased damage. That's insane. Mixed with everything else. Confusion. I know Sneaky Beak can do extra damage against targets with confusion. So add on top of that the extra damage he gets from his leader. Sneaky Beaky could be a hard hitter, a very hard hitter. There's still 4 other goblins that haven't been released as well. So who knows? There is the potential for this team to be very, very powerful. In terms of leadership, it's definitely not the worst leader we've seen, Abaddon. So there's that. I think overall, yeah, I'm happy with him. There's a lot of RNG, but there's not at the same time. Dead rats are a continuous thing happening in the fight. It's not like they're not going to be appearing on him as the battle continues. How you manage them is up to you, though. And I don't think it has been mentioned, but when you use an ability, it does get rid of your dead rat stacks. So this isn't just a thing that gets more powerful over time. You use your dead rats how you see fit. Maybe saving certain abilities until you know that they can be cast at their full potential. Overall, yeah, I think he's a good leader, but you will see in the comments below all the complaints or concerns that people have anyway, so feel free to jump down there and dive into that mess. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. I'll answer it to the best of my ability, and wherever you are in the world, until next time, please take care of yourself.